scrims. Yesterday, Vander had said that Elements should be more of a challenge than Splice. So let's see if that works out. Jankos was tweeting they're going to play much faster than yesterday. And in terms of picks and bans, Lulu Rise.
Oh, I love this.
Kalista Corki. I'm not sure about this.
I love this. Forgiven is saying turnabout's fair play. It's like, well, I know I can beat everybody 2 versus 2 in my own mind, so I'm going to ban all the AD carries, and you'll fight me while I'm playing Caitlyn or Lucian. Like, that's what this situation is going to end up on. Because if MrRallez picks something like an Ezreal, Forgiven's going to go, okay, I'll take you on that.
Is the last ban going to be Alistair towards Sprattel? Run the risk of Lucian, or are they going to ban Lucian and just go for that Caitlyn?
There's a lot of options. You got Poppy up as well. There's the Alistair that you were talking about. Good call on that one. So now you kind of force elements to the Lucian, and now H2K go, okay, that's fine. We're going to take 2 other strong picks. The Graves is available. We've got the Poppy, the Fiora. We've got a lot of options available for H2K, and they've forced elements now to pretty much ban 2 OPs in Lulu and Gangplank themselves, so they're now not available on the next rotation. Elise is up as well if Jankos wants to take her for a second run in the jungle this game. Maybe more damage in the mastery page. Serious looks there on Jankos' face. And for H2K, as you mentioned earlier, Stress, they're currently 6-1. If they pick up a win here today, they will still be tied with G2 in overall record, but because they've beaten G2, they will technically hold that first place seed. 2 picks to lock in. You have to think this is expected. Coming into week 4 on 6.2, the trio of AD carries, Kalista, Corki, Lucian, is definitely something everybody was looking at to see how many we're going to get banned. And it's an interesting pick ban trend as we go week to week. So now do elements opt for the Janna, which is what we've typically seen alongside the Lucian in the last few days? Do they opt for something like a Braum that has that added disengage but tankiness alongside it as well? Both champions have the similar role when it comes to their team fight, but Braum obviously is able to soak up so much more damage himself. I like this rotation though out of H2K. It was exactly what they needed here. I also like the fact that it's still technically a flex. Yes. You know, we've seen both Odoamne and Vander run that Poppy. Vander's fallen back to the likes of Trundle when Poppy Alistair not available. Sprattel's played a lot of Thresh. He's got 3 games on that. And you have to think with Elise off the table, the next logical champion in the jungle is Lee Sin, alternatively Kindred. She's enabled this week on 6-2, but we've not seen her a whole lot. Yeah, we haven't seen them. We saw them in 1 game. Yeah. So this Tahm Kench, I don't mind. The only problem here is Tahm Kench is a fairly low engaged top laner. He only really has that 1 stun. A play we actually saw backfire horribly in Challenger this past week was a Tahm Kench play with a Lucian and a Janna, like trying to go onto a Kalista, and it just backfired because they had no way of locking down the enemy using that Abyssal Voyage in from the side. So I think Elements need to be a little careful here. They do have Lee Sin to provide the kick engage if he can get there, and maybe follow up, but that is still a fairly small amount of engage. Yeah, we'll have to see how Elements round out the rest of their composition. For H2K, yeah, I can't get away from the fact that very, very serious faces for everybody, including Broly. For a team that's traditionally very jovial and very happy, they will lock in the Ezreal for Forgiven. And it's not the first time that he's run that, but it will be the first time in Spring Split here. Corki, Lucian, Caitlyn are the only 3 champions he's played. This will be the 4th into his collection, and Selfie will pull out the Viktor, another different champion for his 2nd week here on the LCS stage. So still a potential flex up to the top lane. We could be seeing a top lane Lucian here as well. Keep that in mind, it was played yesterday by Vitality. It was Cabochard that did that. So this is what the Caitlyn hover is possibly like alluding to, but I would expect MrRallez to take the Lucian. MrRallez, of course, getting MVP earlier in this split. I believe it was week 2 he got that MVP from the AD carry role. So we know he still has some chops when it comes to an AD carry, but he's going up against Forgiven. He does have, you know, the opportunity against an Ezreal to put his presence felt into the laning phase. Yeah. Didn't work out so great for Splice in the previous game, but the possibility is, that's for MrRallez and Elements. But I just want to go back to this Poppy flex pick, because it could still go in Vander's hands if Odoamne feels he has a counter pick, or Vander's going to lock in a support. Now that we know Elements have rounded their team comp out, it is Morgana for Sprattel, it'll be Fiora for Steve, and if memory serves correctly, every time Fiora is not banned, Steve has run it. This will be the 5th time. So really falling back on that champion a lot. So this is the situation where Odoamne now, is he confident enough in his early game and mid game so that he never lets Steve get fed? as soon as Steve on Fiora gets ahead of Odoamne, it becomes very difficult for Poppy to actually manage a Fiora. As soon as that dash cooldown is very low, yes, steadfast presence will deal with it once, but you can run circles around a Poppy once you've got that cooldown low. So I'm interested to see now exactly how that top lane matchup goes. Of course, still could be a flex, but I feel like Odoamne is the kind of player that's fairly confident there.
Of course, especially when you consider the performances that he's put on the table in recent weeks versus Steve and the power that Jankos brings. Still heavily involved in first bloods across the board for H2K. They've picked that up in 71% of their games, which I believe is 5 out of 7, unless my math is terribly wrong.
I'm not going to cover you on that.
Yeah, I'm gonna commit to that one. So fairly confident of that, and it will be a Janna lock-in. So the disengage will come from Vander, and again, a lack of real hard engage, but you've got pick potential from the Lucian, the Morgana.
So we missed a little bit here, because I assume the Morgana was going into support with Tahm Kench top lane.
Wow.
So it's actually Morgana mid lane here, with Tahm Kench support and Fiora top lane. As the swap rounds have come, that's how it's played itself out. So you've got a heavy wave clear mid laner in Morgana with catch potential and the ability to control a team fight, going up against a heavy wave clear mid laner with a bit of catch potential and a large ability to change a team fight with damage. So basically, this mid lane matchup is just going to be wave clear all game long. It's going to be about this side lane, the Poppy versus the Fiora. Which one becomes uncontrollable?
I got so excited about the Poppy, I didn't even look at that team composition. And Eika's run Morgana before. This is actually the second time he's used it in the mid lane. I'm not a major fan of that Tormented Soil when it comes to wave clear, because it's so reliant on the minions bunching up versus Viktor's Death Ray. But we'll see what Eika can do to make it work. There's your team comps, guys. Will Elements start their climb up the table? Can they pull off a surprise upset win? Hashtag EL win, or will H2K once again sit atop the table of Europe with G2? Hashtag H2K win. We are loading up onto the rift. The flags are lit on the left-hand side of the stage. There's Elements versus H2K with the Morgana mid, which we now know.
With the Morgana mid, and to maybe stem a little bit of your worries about Morgana mid, keep in mind that in a neutral lane with 2 fresh waves, you always will have it stack in the same place, and if it's pushing in towards you, you know it'll bunch on the turret as well. So there are a couple of key points, but you're right that it's a little, you know, you have to wait for the wave.
It's situational. It's more situational.
Yeah, unlike Viktor, who just catches it when the wave's coming, you have to wait for it to settle, but we'll catch up on that later into the game, because Elements looking to go aggressive onto Jankos. They're not going to get him in the jungle this early on. But, you know, we've had some early game action today already.
Oh, yes, we have. And for Elements, going to get the vision done. It seems to be replied by Forgiven and Vander down in the bottom half, or bottom quadrant, rather, of the jungle. And this is going to give all the information. So Sprattel, Tahm Kench support. He's seen... I think Vander was saying yesterday he felt the nerfs to Tahm on 6-2 affected him more in the top lane than in support, because it was primarily focused on damage.
Yeah, it was shaved some damage off his ultimate. The TLDR of that is that rank 3 ultimate now gives you what rank 2 ultimate used to give you on passive damage, so it is a bit of a nerf to him. But from that support role, really it's just Devour that you're looking for, just that ability to protect an ally. And we'll watch that as it goes through. Sprattel has been spotted on the bot side, as will MrRallez if he crosses over this ward. So the information is there. You can see immediate responses H2K saying, yeah, we want this 2v2. Let's go bot lane and be able to hold this. So it's going to be 2v2 bot.
All right, we'll see how that pans out. We saw the Keystones, coming into this week actually, 56% of all Keystone Masteries with Thunderlords. In the last 2 games that we've seen, only 2 out of 10, making it 20%. Math I can do. But what were you getting very excited about their stress?
So it's the fact that H2K rushed themselves to the lane. If I'm seeing this correctly, H2K have just got edged themselves ahead in experience here by skipping the Gromp and getting the most of the wave, because Rallez and Sprattel split the Gromp and then missed a couple of creeps off this front wave of minions. So H2K are already zoning away the bottom lane here.
And of course you've got Tahm Kench, melee support into a Janna plus Ezreal, so the ranged poke and harass is going to be very difficult to deal with. Vander's already starting to zone away Rallez and Sprattel.
This laning advantage is all from that ward that they got. From Jankos spotting the Elements team in the topside jungle, to H2K invading bot side, getting 3 wards down, and being able to spot the early pathing. It's a great start. Steve could be in trouble here.
Yeah, already the flash comes out. Very good riposte. Means that the cocoon just gets blocked. But Jankos already has Steve's flash down in a matchup that, you know, could stay in one player's favor if they get ahead. Is already now going to give some advantage to Odoamne, especially if Jankos continues to linger, maybe place a ward or 2 down.
Yeah, that's just going to allow Odoamne now. I expect in the next couple of minutes he'll look to somehow get the wave to come back towards him so that he can try and force Steve to overextend in this lane. The only problem with that is now Odoamne is looking for a dive with Jankos, so screw it, pushing back. Jankos has been spotted though. Riposte should be able to block this.
Let's take a look. Stun against the wall or the cocoon. One of them can happen. Teleport comes up from Eika. It's already been cancelled.
Oh,
that means
no.
There's no more backup. There's no more support. Odoamne bashes Steve into the minions. There's no stun. Odoamne's forced to back away, and Steve manages to survive.
That was a really nice defend by Steve. He knew all he had to do was sit in his minion line and know where that he would get the line between a wall and Odoamne, so he would get stunned. Anything else, he can just riposte. He knows if the cocoon can't hit, the stun is easy to riposte. That was really well played by Steve under his own tower there.
Mechanically comes out ahead without a flash. The cost was Eika's teleport. So that will give more pressure that will open up more pressure for Selfie to put down in that lane. And we'll see how well he can handle it. Jankos is going to be backing away. Gilius not going to spot him out, but Jankos will be aware that that ward is there. Unless he was shopping, that would be bad.
Well, the team would have seen it go down on the map as well.
There we go.
No excuses. No excuses on not spotting that ward. But some players actually will queue that bush if you just run up to it, if you've seen a jungler being fairly low. So I was wondering whether Gilius would just run up and queue it.
Well,
get
I was
himself
holding my
basically
breath.
a kill.
I was holding my breath.
I was like, the luck, the RNG is here. But no,
prepping the play-by-play. So this is the ward in the river. We'll spot out Gilius, give Odoamne information, and Jankos already got himself a pink ward, and that sweeping lanes is also going to be in position for a potential counter game.
Yeah, this is decent from Gilius. Although he was spotted, it's enough for Jankos to think twice about going here. It's good counter gank timing, knowing that top lane was pushing away from elements, so Steve pushes it all the way out as far as he can safely. They've got each other in the jungle, though.
Wow. Jankos called Gilius
yeah.
in the jungle. And all that information, right? That one ward in the river. There was a ping around the raptor camp, and Jankos immediately went down to give Gilius a high five with a cocoon and a volatile spider.
It's not a nice high five, though. Vander. Oh, he got it!
So good.
Man, and that's the other side of that information, is Vander knows there is absolutely nobody that could be in that jungle.
75 damage on that Zephyr. He manages to pick that one up.
75 damage for that just over 80 gold. Whew, bargain.
Exactly. Exactly. And all of the stacks from Spellthief's Edge. So going to give them an advantage. Forgiven still 10 CS up. All the other lanes are very even, but for the time being, H2K looking very comfortable and very happy. Odoamne is farming his way up. Got himself that bombing cinder. Starting to build towards some tankiness. And as you mentioned, him pick some ban stress. The farm lane in the mid lane.
Oh yeah, it's going to be like this for a while. Well, what that does really mean, though, for H2K is we've seen them playing this win lane, win game kind of style. This is a fairly neutral lane by the fact it's just a farm lane for now. Like, neither is going to push the other out particularly well. Top lane as well now is swinging slightly in Steve's favor when you look at the CS difference, but I believe it's actually Odoamne is about to receive a fair amount of creeps in that top lane. Steve's also ahead on CS, on experience as well. So Steve's doing fairly well after that defense under tower.
And this is very quintessential H2K. In almost all of their games, their aggregate lead at 10 minutes is only around 400 gold. So, you know, there's some big swings either way, if that's the case, but traditionally, they accelerate between 10 and 20 minutes. Because they go from an average lead of 400 at 10 to an average lead of 2,400 at 20. Much like H2K of last year, where they found this gap, but they're doing it in a very different style to what we're seeing. And it is traditionally revolving around getting a tower, getting one lane ahead, and then moving that lane around to basically play bowling with every other turret.
Oh, Jankos. That was rough timing by Jankos. Although I don't know whether it's going to matter. Elements are pretty low already on this game.
And there's 2 teleports from Steve and Eika. The knockup will find Sprattel. And he will gobble up MrRallez. Now Jankos has got support from Odoamne, who's teleported in. And it was
Steve cancelled his.
He's there. There's the steadfast presence. MrRallez can't get away. A knock-up onto Sprattel. Odoamne tanks up the tower for a 2 shots. Vander, bloodthirsty support, 2 kills.
Yeah, it goes well because Steve cancelled his TP, Odoamne didn't, and that results in the 2 kills. But, you know, Jankos is looking a little bit rough with these early game invades. He attempted to dive in the top lane in this one. Yesterday we saw 2 go wrong. On that one, Jankos gave the game away way earlier. Realistically, there was nothing that Elements could have done at that situation anyway, but in a slightly different situation, Jankos went in with the minion wave as it crossed that small opening in the jungle, and it allows you to have vision on it. Gilius is a little too far up here. No teleports if his teammates are available.
Let's find out if the Raptor camp is worth it. Odoamne has got flash. He's flashed over the wall. Gilius will find the Rift Herald and will make it out alive. What is the cost? Ghost from Selfie and flash from Odo for the flash for Gilius.
Yeah, Odo without that flash now. He did also give away a fair amount of that laning pressure when it comes to the CS he gave over to Steve, but of course did pick up 2 assists for himself. He's going towards that tankier build, and then probably going to go for the Iceborne Gauntlet on that Poppy.
And I think it's important to note that both Steve and Eika used their teleport for that previous dive. They cancelled it or was interrupted. Either way, they didn't make it down. And again, it's not available. So Odoamne's TP, first time to a skirmish, nets 2 kills and a tower.
It does, but you know, Elements have been a little bit weird with their teleports. They've been cancelling them very quickly. I mean, think about it. Eika used his to try and go to the top lane, cancelled it when Steve, rightly so, was fine under the tower. So it's fairly slow-paced, but we have had these little pockets of action when it comes to teleport usage. But there's the ward left behind by Jankos. Again, Gilius is just being spotted out in the jungle every minute or so, and it makes it fairly easy for H2K to read the next play.
You can really feel the impact that the wards have in the game. H2K full of information. The riposte comes out from Steve and will not find a stun on Sprattel on there. I think that blocked the hammer shock. But either way, Odo continues to just trade. Down a little bit in CS thanks to the TP play. Jankos is down bottom and Gilius is running away. So this will be a 3 versus 2. Knock up onto Sprattel. There's a flash forward into the Monsoon. Pins Sprattel against the wall for a few seconds. The Cocoon holds him in place a couple seconds longer. The Mystic Shot and a 3rd kill of the game for Vander.
Oh, Vander's stacking him up, man. He's going to become Medjai's Janna. We're going to see it, Trevor.
I certainly hope so. The way H2K are playing, there's not much risk here for anybody on the squad. But for Elements, look, they're still farming. I mean, Eika's pretty good. We'll talk about that in a second.
Steve's coming.
Gilius is coming forward. Dragon's Rage still available, and Jankos has not been kicked. A ward hop as Jankos is pinned against the wall and squashed under the boot to Gilius. A TP from Steve results into a shutdown kill onto Vander. And just like that, Elements come to life.
Nice reaction play out by Elements. They could recognize H2K were a bit too far forward. Wow.
Eika flashes forward for this one. The gravity field comes up, and even though the stun found Selfie, there was not enough follow-up damage.
Seemed to find you too there for a second. Selfie at this point backs himself away. Interestingly, actually has the swiftness boots here as well. We've actually seen a decline on swiftness boots when it comes to mid laners. When now that we've not got so many spooky ghosts flying around the place. We just saw in the last game Perks opting for Boots of Lucidity, aids his wave clear, as was always the case with Viktor. But I guess Selfie just doesn't want to get hit by like that tongue lash and get slowed, or you know, Tempest and Cripple from Gilius. So just interesting choice. They are the same price, so you know, it depends on what H2K are needing from Selfie. Problem is, he doesn't really need any extra wave clear against the Morgana, because it's not like anybody can push that lane at any point anyway.
Definitely not the case. I still got that teleport available if any other action works out. Although I think I literally started casting it as a start of the sentence. Either way, we're gonna farm back to the middle lane to farm up. The gold lead that H2K have accrued is almost entirely in Vander's pocket. He's got plus 1,200 gold over his opposite number, Sprattel. thanks to, of course, all 3 kills.
We actually heard Vander talking about this yesterday. When it comes to support itemization with the changes to Frost Queens, no longer do you see many supports opting for that, sometimes. But Vander was talking about how he now prefers to go Eye of the Watchers, the Sightstone upgrade, and then go straight into whatever they need, whether it's extra magic resist from a Locket, which I expect is what he's probably going to go in this game when it comes to this Morgana having a lot of damage. He may opt for just slight, like a Mikhail, something else like that, stop the Dark Bindings. It's all on what Vander needs now for the team. That was the whole point, is now you just get that team-focused item that bit faster.
Could go the route of Mikhail as well. Get rid of a binding, and all of a sudden, Viktor and Ezreal can run rampant. Big hit there onto Vander. The support coming into the middle lane. Gilius has found Selfie. The kick into the binding, and Eika gets the 3rd kill for Elements.
Paint the target on the ground, send the binding out. Good stacking of that crowd control by Elements. And Elements are showing they've got some life here against the team that is set, tied pretty much top of the league right now.
Yeah, and that's what we said earlier in the previous game. How you beat the teams lower down the table sends a very big message. The tower's being pushed, and there is a pause here. I'll have to double check who and why, but
H2K we're wave clearing this. Why is our tower dying? We have Viktor against Morgana. Had Viktor. That's actually the whole reason. It's like there's this bug going on.
Well, good play from Gilius. Finding an impactful gank in the mid lane. You can take stock of the current leads down to 600. Thanks to Elements picking up a few more of those kills. Lots of biscuits in the inventory, no wards. Dad Deficio would be disappointed. I'm going to make that a thing. I'm going to make that a thing. It's so true, though.
Looking at the mini-map, though, is where I want to go with this. You guys can't see this, unfortunately. But the lead up to that play, there is no vision control topside jungle around that Raptor entrance for H2K, and that's where Gilius came from. Gilius comes from an unwarded area into the mid lane and catches Selfie out while the rest of the team are trying to maneuver down towards the bottom side jungle. And this is one of the problems that H2K have had is, even with Selfie stepping in, they've looked pretty much the same team that they were before, but just maybe a little slower when it comes to getting picked off in the mid lane. Just that slightly less consistent performance out of the middle lane has made it a little more difficult for H2K.
Yeah, and we heard, I think it was Vander saying that Selfie's just a little less, or Jankos rather, saying a little less self-sufficient.
Yes, yeah.
If memory serves. And as you can see that H2K have some tech support on stage. We've actually got a replay of that kill onto Selfie and just exactly how Gilius came in from that Raptor camp. Look at the vision. You were talking about stress. Gilius is quite comfy.
Yeah, there's just no vision here. This is normally where you'd see a ward or a pink ward here from a mid laner. Layered.
It's just very well played.
Yeah.
And, some credit to Gilius for being in the right place, catching Selfie unawares. He'd used his flash a few minutes earlier. So tracking that timer and catching him out.
And of course not running cleanse either. Not that it would have changed much in that situation either. But obviously you have the ghost or the cleanse option on Viktor. So if that was just a binding, I would be like, if you had cleanse, man. But no, it was a kick into a binding, so it wouldn't have done much.
It was just well played. And for Elements, they're now in touching distance. So let's see what they do as we get closer to figuring out what the problem is with Selfie's PC. And we'll get an update to you guys as soon as I hear one. But for Elements, they've played the lane swap. They've gone toe-to-toe with H2K. And look, H2K don't have the most aggressive of lanes.
Yeah.
So there's not a whole lot of pressure on them. Before we talk about that, it is a keyboard language setting that is being worked on here for Selfie, as I'm hearing from production. So hopefully we can get that updated in Windows shortly.
He's trying to type lucky and it's coming out in Korean because he's still got Ryu's keyboard.
Probably. Trying to keep,
I don't know what this is saying, man.
Trying to keep track of Gilius's flash, I assume. And that's what set off the alarm bells.
I would imagine so. But speaking of Gilius, he's actually, and the rest of Elements have actually been having a fairly decent game here. Yes, of course, they were a little bit behind, but with the kills going over to Vander and the way the lanes are set up is most lanes are roughly even between the two teams. This is actually a lot stronger a performance out of Elements than I think we were expecting coming into specifically this game. Against H2K, we were wondering, will Elements be the Elements that have lost in the fastest time? they've won in the longest time as well. So we were wondering, really, was that still the way it was for this team? And seems to be the answer is no, they've come out better today.
Yeah, I mean, we are still technically in the laning phase, so I want to see what they do with this lead. Now that they've got a kill, that they can open up the mid lane, that is where the true test happens. It'll be the first tower that Elements will secure. You can see they've got 0 on the bottom left of your screen. And then I want to see what they do next. They don't have any pink wards to place vision from the play yet. But with an exposed lane and pressure on Selfie, now is the real test.
Something pretty intriguing, though, is a departure from the norm for us when it comes to Ezreal AD carry. Last couple of games, or pretty much the whole season long, we've been seeing blue build.
Blue build, yeah.
If you look at the items on your screen, that's a Trinity Force for Forgiven there, which is going to give him power a little bit earlier in the game. Not so reliant on that 2-item spike. Not quite the same as Corki's, but still is going to have that earlier spike.
And I quite like that when you consider he's against a Lucian, a Morgana, Elise, and champions that are already enabled, or they've already come online.
Yep.
Maybe that's a better term to use. All right, guys, I'm hearing from production that we will be jumping back into game shortly. You can see Vander there rattling off information. As we jump back onto the Rift, the tower will fall. So Elements secure the first tower of the game against H2K. Their first tower. And it actually gives them a marginal gold lead.
And to reset that for you, it was all from that gank from Gilius. If you did take a moment away and you're like, why are they paused? Gilius ganked in the mid lane. They got a kill onto Selfie. Then there was a keyboard issue. Elements get the tower, and now we're back into game. 3-3 overall between these two teams. A lot better from Elements, I think, than we were perhaps expecting.
Yeah, so too. But Elements have shown that they haven't really rolled over and died, maybe.
That's true.
But they do seem to be lacking in some of the bigger picture decisions. So let's see what they do now with a small advantage. Odo just throws his shield out.
Trying to play catch.
Yeah, why not?
It's very frustrating that sometimes the way the buckler bounces. Because it always goes nearer your enemy. So you always know that, but it's whether it goes on the angle slightly closer to you or slightly further away. Sometimes it goes further away and they just step on it in the guard. Well, I can't play catch with you anymore.
I'm not a dirty top laner, so I don't actually play Poppy.
You can play the support, man. It's still good. Or jungle if you feel like trying to 1v9.
Okay, that can work. It can work. Let's take a look. Vander's got the support of Jankos down bottom. There's no tower here in the bottom lane, so MrRallez would have to be quite extended for anything to really happen. And Forgiven's picked himself up 2 long swords to go with the Triforce. Looks, Jankos is still sitting there. Oh, hang on. Is it fish for dinner? Is fish going to be served for dinner? Sprattel's walking his way in. The cocoon will connect, and Sprattel gets knocked up. Pops the Grey Health, tries to run backwards. The culling finds some targets onto Jankos, but True Shot picks up the kill.
Fishing with bananas at this point with that True Shot barrage. Eika is looking for another play on mid lane, but you know, Selfie's not going to fall for that kind of thing where it's just a stray binding out of the bush when his tower's already down. He's not going to push forward. He's going to receive the wave further back. And Eika can't really do too much more coming down here. There's too many members of H2K around here, and that's going to be the first dragon for H2K in this game. 15 minutes in.
See what they decide to do next. Odo's moved his way from the top lane to middle. It feels like the next logical decision for Forgiven and Vander is to set their sights on either middle or top tower, and they've pushed their way up to the middle.
And that's what H2K have been really good at doing, is saying, okay, well, we got one objective, let's move, let's get another tower now, look perhaps for that middle lane with the Viktor alongside them. There's almost no way of stopping that push. Problem is, they've gone down bottom lane again because they want to just extend any kind of advantage they've got bottom lane against MrRallez. Thing is, Rallez can kind of hold this. Rallez will have his ultimate back up fairly soon, so there's no way of pushing in there. Just trying to defend their tower now and buy a little bit more time here for Odoamne.
Yeah, and
stronger. And
Eika's going to have his teleport shortly as well, so the longer Forgiven and Vander decide to stick around in that position, the more opportunity or possibility there is for those TP plays. Steve has made one of them work relatively well, and he's looking comfortable and happy. Got those boots of swiftness, got a Titanic Hydra. We'll see if he can make it work, because Gilius is following in the Sonic wave. We're going to have another engage down in the bottom lane. Very good Howling Gale from Vander. The Tongue Lash does not find a target, and Sprattel's forced to use Grey Health and probably single-digit HP. The teleport from Odoamne means Gilius has been killed. Monsoon gets a full channel, and Odo is on the front line. He knocks up Elements. Steve is now the next target, but he will find a kill with the help of Eika. Defensive flash from Vander. Jankos gets a cocoon onto Steve. Forgiven's trying to get damage, but he's got no more mana.
Selfie.
And Selfie was late to the party, but he's bringing the music. The Chaos Storm finds a kill onto MrRallez, and they'll run down Eika for the shutdown, and 4 kills for 2.
A really back and forth fight between these two elements. Thought perhaps with Eika coming into the fight with his ultimate, it was enough. Problem is, everybody either flashed away or managed to get themselves out of that lockdown before it locked. And Selfie comes down with a massive burst of damage, but again, it all stemmed from the top lane TPs from Steve and Odoamne. Both made fairly big plays in this, but it was Odoamne's knock-up on 3 that really brought H2K that fight.
I think it actually got the kill credit.
It did.
One.
He actually got that the knock-up, and it just killed the capture.
We've seen some fantastic knocks from that hammer on Poppy. And Odo's now going to move his way back to the top lane. Ooh, Forgiven. He's going to get away with his life. That was very, very close. Elman's trying to push the towers down.
I just really hope we get to see the interaction where Poppy charges up her ultimate, gets devoured, and hits Tahm Kench and herself away. I love that interaction, man.
Yeah, saw that in LCK as well. So here's a replay of this fight of Gilius being knocked out.
Yeah, this is Steve TPing in. He actually was looking to make a play here, but couldn't get himself into the fight. Single-digit health, as you alluded to, and Odoamne is already in this fight. It's now the engage that comes on. Look at how low health Sprattel is. Wow. There he goes. Keeper's verdict for the kill. And here Eika was trying to lock down, nearly got Jankos off the ultimate. Problem is, this is mid Morgana, so a binding into a W is going to eat half of your health very easily. And then Selfie with the follow-up damage. No real way of stopping him here. Eika tried to sidestep, tried to throw a binding, but 3 people's too many to deal with.
Yeah, certainly is. So 2 for 4 at the end of the day, with both teleports being used between Steve and Odoamne. So H2K again regain control. We're approaching 20 minutes, and Elements are keeping H2K at bay, but when it comes to the proactive moves, H2K have been inside Elements jungle significantly more, and when they've stuck around in lane, that's when Elements have been able to punish. They've found some fights that have gone in their favor.
They really have. I do wonder, though, what would have happened in this game if Vander hadn't have got the first 3 kills for H2K. What would have happened if maybe Forgiven got them instead? I guess that's a what if that we'll never find out the answer to, but what it has helped Vander do is get that Aegis of Allegiant right now. As we said, we spoke to him yesterday on the analyst desk. Instead of Frost Queen's Claim, goes Eye of the Watchers into the Aegis into Locket. So he's going to be able to protect his team from Eika a little bit better.
Shot Barrage does not find Eika. Dark Binding does not find Forgiven. So skill shot's going a little wide. And Eika, again, quietly farming his way up. Distortion on those Boots of Lucidity. Morellinomicon, Abyssal. No MR really outside of that Abyssal versus the fairly heavy magic damage side from Jankos, Selfie, Forgiven. We'll see how else they're going to pick it up, as Forgiven and Vander not really at risk of being towered up.
I was going to say, this is the most optimistic dive, so that's why Elements back away and just look to take a tower. I mean, if there's a lane that's fairly ungankable, it's Ezreal, Janna. Good luck with that. Janna's got her ultimate as well, but really it's just a tower game for Elements. That's what they're looking for here. It was the tower that still remains. The problem is the rest of H2K are already moving on the map. You can see Selfie and Jankos coming up through the jungle. And that's enough. Just them disappearing off the map is enough for Elements to go, okay, we need to reconsider on this.
Oh, Forgiven is actually going to channel that Arcane Shift just before he got caught by the binding. So Stress, I'm going to ask you to answer a difficult question.
Oh, okay. It's not maths, is it?
No. I wouldn't put you there because I wouldn't be able to share an opinion. But, like, take a look at Odo. He's got himself the Iceborne, Spectre's Cal, Balmy Cinder.
Yeah.
But full tank, basically. Up against Steve, you've got Titanic Hydra, you've got Fade, some long swords. Who do you think would win that fight?
Well, Odoamne,
if they decided to.
With the Iceborne is so it's tank, but you still have that added damage that comes from the Sheen in there and the slow. We are getting to the point, though, where Steve's Q is so much shorter cooldown than Odoamne's Steadfast Presence. So it means that if Steve picks his fight correctly, he can actually proc the passives, the vitals, fairly consistently on Odoamne. That's one change that happened in 6.2, is it got normalized to always kind of mirror each other. So you either get left and bottom or top and right, and whichever it is, you get the opposite the next time. Vital. So it means you can actually predict exactly the pathing, which the low cooldown on Steve could open it up. There's been a lot of discussion about Fiora and how you've changed from Ravenous Hydra to Titanic Hydra for that extra tankiness, the ability to survive a little bit longer in fights up front.
So basically,
lifesteal.
Not actually committed to an answer.
No, I haven't.
I'll press you for one in a second.
Thank you for that, Trevor.
Because H2K...
We're going to see it, though. Don't worry.
Down the middle lane, and it's instantly wave cleared by Elements. And Selfie's now going to play wave clear duty in the middle, in the bottom lane. Runs the risk of a head-to-head clash with Steve. And Steve is going to get a lot of damage onto this tower. So if you were to predict...
I'll go with... my gut says Odoamne, but my head says Steve right now.
Well, there you go. You see, I'm happy with a 50-50.
That's still a bit... How are you happier with that 50-50 than I gave you before? There was literally no reasoning behind that, Trevor.
I think I've triggered him.
You have. I'll say Steve.
All right, Steve it is. Cocoon will connect onto Gilius. Sprattel will devour him. A very good knockup from the Howling Gale. Vander's in trouble. He's flashed away defensively. Does channel Monsoon, and it will keep H2K alive. The True Shot Barrage will get Eika below 100 hit points, and the kill's picked up by Selfie. Now Steve will kill Selfie before being eaten up by Sprattel. Explosive Spiraling will pick up a kill onto Sprattel and spit Steve back out, as Gilius is the sacrificial lamb on the back line. A 1 for 3.
That doesn't count, by the way, Trevor, because that was team versus team. It was not the 1v1, but H2K managing to take that fight. Steve was in the fight, but it was a little too late. He appeared after all the lockdown had come out from Eika. Eika managing to get so much damage down. Here comes Steve with a teleport, though, looking to disrupt the Baron attempt. H2K are very high health here, and no smite available for Elements. Baron is still at 5k though.
Yeah, it's not the greatest amount of damage. Steve and Ralls, they've caught H2K in the pit. Odo's playing defensive. Hammer shot came down. Steve's used riposte. MrRallez is going to find a kill with the help of Steve. Jankos follows shortly thereafter. He's not going to get away from this one. Or is he? In spider form, flash from MrRallez. Baron stopped and 2 more kills.
That one counts. Steve TP is in for the damage there. Really, a lot of the damage that went onto Steve came from the Baron itself, because the way most of that circled around the opening of the pit. Here comes round 2. Odoamne wants the fight this time. Mirrored situation. Odoamne could look to disrupt. Jankos isn't here. Selfie's on his way. Elements could be in trouble.
The Chaos Storm's available, but Selfie's using it on Eika. He's not used it in the pit. Eika's down. It's followed by Steve. Baron's down to 13. It's picked up with a smite from Gilius, but will Elements get out? The short answer is no. Gilius is left alone in the pit as the last man, and it's an ace for H2K.
Man, Elements had the play, and they basically fall into the same trap that H2K were in. Elements go, okay, we cleared them out from the Baron, let's do it ourselves. Nothing wrong is gonna happen here, right? Oh, the teleport's available. In comes Odoamne for the cleanup. This is now H2K solidifying a little bit more in this game. Yes, they didn't have a gold lead before this passage of play because of the Baron gold going over to Elements, but they're about to blow this game wide open. Death timers are still on for 4 members of Elements. This should likely be the inhibitor turret.
And look at the bottom wave. There are 1.5 million minions pushing to that inner turret. H2K will open up the middle inhibitor and should peel down to the bottom to pick up another tower if they wanted to. Instead, they may peel back for Dragon. A lot of options available here for H2K, as they've exposed Elements base.
They have, and you know, Elements were holding on for so long in this game. They've managed to kind of claw and scratch any kind of objective when H2K were taking them. They'll be helped by the gold that came over from Baron, but keep in mind, nobody survived the fight that ensued, and that means Elements don't have the buff to go along with the Baron.
Well, H2K, maybe not in the position you were expecting coming into this game, especially when it was top of the table versus bottom of the table, but they picked themselves into relatively weak lane. All right, so Baron power play, ladies and gentlemen, of plus 108. It lasted a grand total of 8 seconds.
Yeah, it was nice. It was good power play.
That might actually be a record. That might actually be the shortest total Baron power play. We'll have to double check that.
Look, some
I'm not gonna commit to it.
some things 8 seconds is a long time for, Trevor, but not for a Baron power play. 128 gold. Keep in mind, that is including the Baron gold. So the change in gold difference for Elements was plus 128.
It's going to be falling even further. The culling is being used defensively by MrRallez, and the boot back onto Odoamne. Chaos Storm is sitting on top of Sprattel and Eika's head, and Elements are splitting up. Rallez is forced into the jungle and he's low. A good dog biting on Selfie will prevent him chasing, but Odoamne pins Sprattel against the wall. Eika's going to continue to peel backwards with that dark shield. And H2K need to not forget the basics. There's minion waves pushing against them, but they can take an inhibitor and then go deal with those side lanes.
MrRallez and Steve are waging war on the jungle while they lose an inhibitor. Like, MrRallez was kind of needed in that situation if they wanted any hope in holding. Odoamne doesn't even care about jungle vision control at this point. He's just moving bot lane because nobody can really stop him. H2K have just exploded this game apart just from that play around Baron, and it looked so good for Elements. It was looking so good, but they go, okay, let's just start the Baron.
The B word happened.
Yeah, it did. Unfortunately, they got baited into it at the same time, and do you know what? I was actually fairly impressed by the way Elements started this game. Like, there was a fair amount of hope, and you know, whenever we say that, it tends to be against teams that are at the same point in the standings, but this is H2K who are at the top of the standings. They held on very well, but now H2K just have a lot of power on this Ezreal, on this Viktor, and a lot of it's coming on to Steve right now.
2 versus 3. Monsoon used defensively. Flash forward for Gilius.
there's no
found
teleport.
Forgiven. Steve is going to find Forgiven. The riposte comes out. It means he stays alive. And a 2v3. Elements have got the AD carry.
Well, at this point now, H2K just have to wave clear with the Viktor. They cannot afford to take a fight. Top lane, Odo's teleport is just coming up. Are they going to be greedy and get the teleport, get the tower, and then TP? Will Elements send anybody back to try and stop this? Yes, they've sent Steve here.
So let's see what Steve can do against Odoamne. He's got teleport available and the home guards. Tower will fall. So Forgiven's life was lost, and Odoamne finds a tower to reply. He's not done yet. Pressure down in the bottom lane, and Elements looking to flank on this top inner turret.
At this point, I think Steve is very confident. Here comes the teleport.
Yes, it is. The teleport's coming down. Defensive flash from Selfie. Jankos is caught under the tower. And with the help of Odoamne, the hammer knocks Gilius all the way away. Steadfast presence mean the dashes will not allow anyone to chase Odoamne. But H2K will lose their inner turret. Two-shot barrage doesn't find any further targets, and Gilius is looking for Jankos. Human form. Volatile spiraling. Where's the cocoon? Is going to connect. 1,000 hit points apiece, and Elements, they're chasing a kill instead of trying to push further.
And it's not the push, it's their base that was being taken down. Eika did manage to get the recall coming out here, but Jankos, yes, he gives his life, but he took up a lot of time for Elements. Look at the tower damage that was already done. Any longer, and that could have potentially been Nexus towers going down. Elements are forced back into their base, though. Gone is the time that they can step forward while those super minions are pushing into their base. That gives H2K the freedom to get out onto the map, lay down the vision control, and maybe look to contest Baron once it becomes available once again.
Well, this Elements team is 3-4 in the standings. They are pushing H2K at 30 minutes, dead even. H2K was tied with G2 eSports coming into the day. And a loss here to Elements not only would be a shock and a disappointment for H2K, but mean that G2 holds sole position of first place.
And because H2K showed 3 people in the top lane, Elements go, okay, mid lane is where our inhib is down, we'll push that. We'll go with everybody but Steve and push that lane through. They're now getting an inner for an outer, which is a worthwhile trade for Elements. And they're probably going to back away after this, though, I would imagine.
You have to step back and start looking at these picks and bans. Was Ezreal the right pick? Was the Poppy into Fiora the right pick? Because Fiora is the champion Steve has played every opportunity available.
Oh,
Forgiven.
They just got spotted. Abyssal Voyage is on its way in. Who's coming with him?
Odoamne is going to channel. He manages to find 2. The keeper's verdict says, MrRallez, I want you. I spawned
Oh, he stopped
to a
him.
stum. The hammer shock will keep MrRallez in place for a few seconds longer. Here's support here from Elements. And H2K have come to back them up. This is the right time to remind everyone. On 6.2, we currently have a spectator bug regarding the Dragon and Baron timers. That's why we cannot currently see them coming up. And there's the goal difference over the last few minutes.
And it shows you between 15 and 25 minutes how scrappy this game was. Objectives traded. The Baron was picked up by Elements, keep in mind, as it is about to respawn, but they all die So they actually didn't get too much from that buff, and H2K took the advantage after that fight. But H2K have they've been running around the map a bit the last couple of minutes. Odoamne, with his teleport not being available, then Forgiven gets caught in the top lane. There have been errors that are slipping into H2K's play. It's not as clean cut as we've come to expect from them.
Yes, and now the pressure is on. H2K on the verge of a major upset. If they drop this game, yes, they are still playing with the substitute. Know that Ryu's not there, but Selfie's been playing for 2 full weeks. Dragon and Baron have both just spawned within the last minute. And if Elements decide to prioritize one, it opens up opportunities for the other.
Begs to question, though. Vander has opted for the Zeke's Harbinger, an item we don't see all that often until we go very late game with support, instead of something like a Mikhail's Crucible. So opting for the damage, going to rely on Forgiven not getting caught. We know Forgiven is touted as being one of the players that can pretty much dodge most things you throw at him. He did get caught earlier, though, out on his own.
Dodge a Fiora.
Yeah, if it happens once, maybe it happens again. So it's not a particularly bad item choice. It's just H2K opting for damage rather than a little bit more survivability.
This is scary. Both teams meeting in the middle lane. Odoamne was caught by the Dark Binding and the Tormented Soil. Eika's got a lot of ability power. For the time being, around 400. Hourglass, Abyssal, Morellonomicon. We're going to work towards either a Void Staff or a Death Cap shortly. Selfie's already got both of.
Also, I like the interaction here. I believe the interaction with Harbinger is still active, that you can charge it on one member, swap it to another. They've got it cast onto Selfie right now while he's running around, so basically as soon as the fight kicks off, they'll then put it on Forgiven. It doesn't really matter who, it just means that they can consistently stack it regardless of the AD carry and support being next to each other.
This game has revolved around these top laners. Steve, 5, 1, and 2, 295 CS, teleport available. Odo, 6, 1, 7. The Uber Mega Super Tank, Poppy. We'll see which one will be more impactful in team fights. Gilius, safeguard to a teammate. True Shot Barrage just tags Sprattel's bottom, but he'll be able to regenerate that with the grey health.
And H2K relying on there not being a ward here for Steve, but there is one in behind them. The further they push up the wave, the further the ward goes away. But H2K is still looking to pressure. Steve is getting a turret from this, no problem.
Good timing on that Black Shield from Eika. And with H2K sticking in the mid lane, I mean, Steve has got the tower. That is the 6th of the game. Even on towers and Elements has a 2,000 gold lead.
Yeah, Elements, despite having their inhibitor cracked earlier in the game, have been able to maintain a lead for the last few minutes here. This is not the H2K we're expecting. In goes Odoamne, he's got MrRallez!
He's knocked up into the air. MrRallez may as well have frequent flyer miles. He's killed. Steve is teleported in for the fight, dashing onto Selfie, trying to get it, but there's no support. Steve will fall, and H2K have found the team fight that just might win them the game. 45 seconds before Rallez is back, a minute before Steve is back. Odoamne is pushing forward. The rest of H2K are coming in behind. It's 5v3, and they're going to take the inhibitor down.
It was very clear from H2K. Get Odoamne onto MrRallez, deny him from dashing away, and get the kill on the most of the damage that's going to come out. From there, Steve can't 1v5. And that's how H2K are going to look to end this game.
Serious faces on the side of H2K. They don't have a lot of minions to work with. A conga line is making its way forward. Odo's got nearly 4,000 hit points, and he's tanking up the turret. He's going to take the lasers for a little while before backing away. Nexus turret number 1 is down. H2K, this is the game for them. They found the second turret. Gilius is going to kick Selfie away, but the Nexus is being focused. Jankos and Odo, they're hitting it down. Keeper's Verdict will knock Eika into the air before he goes golden. Rallez has respawned. He's going to get a kill before turning to Odo. The Nexus continues to drop. Rallez finds a crit, but the Nexus is down and H2K win! Relief and smiles for Forgiven. Jankos, Selfie. But that is not a game that they were expecting.
No H2K, H2K.
Yo, do it.
No, do it.
H2K,
H2K, H2K, H2K, H2K, H2K.
They'll be relieved, though. As you said, relief and smiles. That was more game elements than we've seen in a couple of weeks. That's a little more reminiscent of the elements that started the split, where they went 3-1 overall. You can see between the two.
I know what that's like. I'm the same height as Vander, and talking to MrRallez is so difficult, but it's great to see the sportsmanship between former teammates. And it's great to see Steve on a champion he's comfortable with, the level of impact that he can bring. 5-2-2 on the Fiora. But then you have to credit Odo on that Poppy. He did pick it into the Fiora, opted into that pick, and they managed to find MrRallez in that last team fight.
I feel like H2K, even though they put so much emphasis on AD carries, their key bang here was honestly the Alistar. Like getting Sprattel off the Alistar onto this Tahm Kench, it just wasn't the same Sprattel that we saw. In the week we gave MrRallez MVP, you could have almost given it to Sprattel at the same time. He had a great performance, but I feel like it's one of those picks now that you look at and you say, well, they can never get this again, because it neutralizes so much of what Elements have to offer.
So great to see the fans in-house, and if you are an H2K fan, that was a nail-biting game. Absolutely nail-biting.
Oh, yeah.